The world has witnessed numerous significant developments recently, and today we'll delve into some of the most noteworthy ones. Before we proceed, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel, activate notifications, and give this video a like. These actions are greatly appreciated and vital to the continued growth of our channel. Your support means a lot to us. Also, feel free to leave a comment and let us know where you are watching from. And lastly, please watch this video to the very end, since in the end we will be presenting conclusions. Alright, let's get into it. The conflict in Ukraine continues to evolve, and we're seeing new aspects of the war come to light, including the increasingly prominent role of Belarus. Belarus, a close ally of Russia, has gradually transitioned from a supporting nation to a country directly entangled in the conflict. Recent evidence suggests that Belarus is not only providing logistical support, but also actively involved in producing and supplying weapons to Russia's war effort in Ukraine. This shift underscores the growing complexity of the war and the involvement of multiple nations beyond just Russia and Ukraine. The impact on the conflict's trajectory is definitely one to watch out for. Specifically, investigations have revealed that Belarus is playing a key role in the manufacturing and modernization of Russian military hardware. For example, Belarusian companies are now producing components for artillery, tank systems, and even short-range missile systems. These components are then shipped to Russia, assembled, and deployed on the Ukrainian front lines. There is credible evidence that many of the munitions used in the current offensives against Ukrainian forces were produced or assembled in Belarusian facilities. This production line is vital for Russia, as it faces increasing sanctions and the depletion of its own stockpiles. It is clear that Russia is heavily relying on Belarus to sustain its war efforts, and that reliance is deepening the relationship between the two countries. Furthermore, we are seeing the use of Belarusian military infrastructure for the Russian operations in Ukraine. Belarusian air bases have been used as launching sites for Russian airstrikes and missile attacks, and their logistics hubs have provided staging grounds for the transportation of supplies and personnel. The extent of Belarus's integration into Russia's military campaign is now becoming more and more clear. This integration has sparked much debate and international condemnation because it increases the complexity of this war. Belarus's actions are challenging the international norms of neutrality, and we should be paying attention to these developments. Now, this brings us to the issue of Belarusian armored vehicles. Evidence suggests that Belarusian-produced armored vehicles are seeing action on the front lines, not just being supplied to the Russian Federation. The Belarusian 2T Stalker armored vehicle, for example, has been recorded participating in military operations. This demonstrates a significant level of collaboration and military integration between the two nations and how the Belarus army is being used in this war. While it's difficult to confirm the exact number and types of vehicles being used in the Ukrainian war, the overall trend is evident. These armored vehicles further emphasize Belarus's critical role in the conflict. This also leads us to the involvement of the Belarusian military personnel in operations in Ukraine. There have been increasing reports of Belarusian military personnel participating in certain areas of the front lines alongside the Russian troops. This involvement, while not on a large-scale basis, is notable given the fact that it indicates a new level of military collaboration between Belarus and Russia. While the Belarusian government denies that their troops are engaged in the conflict in Ukraine, the evidence suggests otherwise. This further complicates the geopolitical equation, drawing Belarus ever deeper into the war. This poses new questions about the possible consequences of its involvement in the future. The level of Belarus's support for Russia's war is causing an outcry around the world. The international community has condemned Belarus for its support, and Western powers have ramped up their sanctions in response. These sanctions, however, have not had their intended impact, as Belarus continues to provide its material support to Russia. This is a critical factor, as it showcases the limitations of current sanction regimes. The economic ties between Russia and Belarus are very close and have allowed them to weather the current sanctions. This situation is another one to pay close attention to as this relationship grows even stronger. And now, let us turn our attention to another critical development happening in the region. There have been reports about new types of weapon being used in the Ukrainian war. More specifically, there has been a significant increase in the use of advanced Russian drones with modern technological advantages. The use of these drones is a critical indicator of the war's technological aspect. The Russian military has been implementing new drone technologies to augment its military operations in Ukraine, in addition to its previously deployed systems. The Russian forces have been using these drones for several critical tasks. We are seeing these modern drone systems being used for reconnaissance, surveillance, and targeting. These new UAVs are proving to be an increasingly effective combat multiplier on the battlefield. They gather intelligence and guide artillery, thus increasing effectiveness in their actions. These new Russian drones are capable of performing complex missions, including engaging in air-to-air combat with other drones, and even engaging in attacks on ground targets. They are demonstrating a new level of sophistication in the use of UAV systems. With the use of AI, these drones are also becoming more effective in their actions. Also, it is important to mention that the usage of these new drones is not limited to the battlefield. They are also being used to disrupt supply lines and to gather critical information on troop movements. Drones have also been used to conduct psychological warfare, such as broadcasting propaganda to Ukrainian troops. And it is not outside of the realm of possibilities that they are also being used to track movements of enemy forces. The use of advanced drones is a key part of Russia's strategy to gain an advantage on the battlefield. This technological aspect of the war is certainly very important, and we should pay very close attention to it. The capabilities of these new drones are being improved very quickly. The Russian military is using advanced sensor technology, high-resolution cameras, and AI algorithms to improve their effectiveness. These new drones also have extended flight times, enhanced payload capacity, and the ability to operate in harsh weather conditions. These technological advancements are making them more adaptable to the realities of modern warfare. The development and use of these drones mark a new chapter in the ongoing conflict, and they are causing huge waves of concern in the West. The increasing use of these advanced Russian drones raises new questions for Ukrainian and Western defense systems. Ukraine is now focusing on developing counter-drone technology in order to defend itself against this new threat. They are now testing and implementing new electronic warfare systems, anti-drone weapons, and drone jamming devices. The development of this technology is a critical aspect of Ukraine's defense strategy. As the technology is rapidly evolving in the war, both sides are now constantly adapting and responding. Now let's switch our focus once more to the topic of foreign arms supply in the ongoing war. It is becoming increasingly evident that North Korea's weapons supply to Russia is expanding. Russia is now facing significant ammunition shortages, and it is turning to North Korea for help. We are now receiving confirmed evidence that North Korea is supplying Russia with large quantities of artillery shells, tactical missiles, and even manpower. This cooperation is creating serious questions among the international community. The scale of North Korea's weapon supply is remarkable. It has become clear that it is not just artillery shells that are being supplied to Russia by North Korea. We are now seeing evidence that North Korea is also supplying tactical ballistic missiles, which are capable of striking targets deep within Ukraine's territory. These missiles pose a serious threat to the Ukrainian forces and civilian infrastructure. This highlights the critical role of North Korea in supporting Russia's war effort. This is an important development that the world should not ignore. In addition to weapons supply, there are also reports of North Korean soldiers being deployed in the front lines with Russian forces. These soldiers are not officially part of the Russian army, but they are fighting alongside them in several key sectors of the conflict. This is an important aspect of the North Korean involvement, which further deepens the level of collaboration between the two states. The presence of North Korean forces on the ground also points to a more extensive military relationship than previously understood. The full extent of this collaboration is something to watch very closely. This North Korean military support to Russia has significant implications. This support is not only helping Russia sustain its war efforts, but it is also providing North Korea with valuable military experience. This is an opportunity for the North Koreans to test their weapons and military tactics in a real-world combat environment. It also provides North Korea with much-needed foreign currency and resources. These developments are reshaping the geopolitical landscape and should be closely scrutinized. The international community is increasingly concerned about the growing military alliance between Russia and North Korea. There have been calls for more sanctions against North Korea. This includes the potential for secondary sanctions, which would target entities that are involved in providing materials to North Korea. It remains to be seen whether these new sanctions will be effective in curbing North Korean support for Russia's war in Ukraine, and the general feeling is that they will not be as impactful as many would like. The complexities of international relations will certainly test the current world order. These developments also bring us back to the topic of potential arms exchanges. Reports have surfaced suggesting Russia has sent sophisticated air defense equipment to North Korea in exchange for its support. This transfer of technology includes long-range surface-to-air missiles, which are significantly advanced pieces of military hardware. This has been widely seen as a way for Russia to compensate North Korea for their support and to ensure that Russia remains to be a valuable ally of North Korea. It also showcases how different nations are willing to engage in controversial military partnerships in order to further their goals. This transfer of air defense equipment to North Korea raises major security concerns, since it enhances North Korea's air defense capabilities and poses a new challenge to neighboring nations. It gives Pyongyang an enhanced capability in terms of defending itself against potential air attacks, which might lead to a more bellicose policy toward its neighbors. This transfer of advanced weaponry is having a ripple effect on the entire region and beyond. This is another area where the international community should take notice. The impact of these arms exchanges will surely be felt beyond the present conflict in Ukraine. The North Korean regime will have the ability to better defend itself, as it now has some of the most advanced air defense technologies available. This will also embolden North Korea to adopt a more confrontational stance with other nations. The consequences of these arms transfers will likely reshape the balance of power in the region for a very long time to come. This also shows how the war in Ukraine has had a destabilizing effect on other regions around the world. And finally, one more important factor that we have been following is the increase of the North Korean arms production. Recent reports have detailed the expansion of a major North Korean missile production facility. Satellite imagery shows that North Korea has dramatically increased the size of this factory, as well as the scale of its output. This has raised concerns about the potential for further increases in arms transfers to Russia. The increase in production also indicates a possible escalation of regional tensions. This is another one of the big questions on the current world stage. The expansion of North Korea's arms production facility is a worrying development. The factory is producing a wide range of tactical missiles that have been used by Russian forces in Ukraine, which means that the Russian army is heavily reliant on this type of missile. The increased production suggests that North Korea will further increase its supplies to the war effort and could cause an intensification of the conflict. This is definitely a situation that should be closely monitored. The increased level of production also poses new risks to the region. The increased production of missiles is a critical issue and raises the potential for Russia to intensify its attacks against Ukraine. The increased production capacity means that Russia has a more stable supply of weapons. This also suggests that Russia's military is trying to adapt to the changing landscape of the conflict. The expansion of the factory highlights the importance of the arms relationship between Russia and North Korea, and it is clear that Russia has become dependent on this supply chain. We should be focusing on this dynamic and its possible consequences in the near future. These current trends show us that we are entering a more dangerous phase of the conflict. The international community must take a united stance to address these issues before this escalates even further. The international order is being challenged, and we have to try to counter it by imposing effective measures that would lead to greater regional stability. It is more critical than ever that we are aware of these issues and are able to come together in order to combat them. Conclusion. Before we finish this video, let's summarize the main events that we talked about. First of all, the involvement of Belarus in the war in Ukraine has been expanding, with the country now supplying military equipment and personnel, becoming an integral part of Russia's war effort. Secondly, we have been witnessing the rise of advanced drone warfare. Russia is employing sophisticated UAV technology to gain an advantage on the battlefield, which poses new challenges for Ukraine. Thirdly, the military cooperation between Russia and North Korea is intensifying, with North Korea supplying large quantities of weapons to Russia in exchange for military technology. And finally, we have been seeing an alarming increase in North Korea's weapons production, which indicates that there could be a possible intensification of the conflict in the coming months. These complex and interlinked developments require international attention and cooperation. We must remember to remain vigilant, and together we can strive for a more peaceful and secure world. Thank you for watching this video, and remember to subscribe, leave a like, and leave a comment with the city that you are watching from.